There we go. Hello, everybody. Jay Real here with my guest Noah, and we're going to proceed here pretty soon with part two of the top 200 horror films according to Rotten Tomatoes. Uh, and in going through this list, there is one really glaring omission that I went through it twice, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. uh, and I'm not going to say what it is, but it's like unbelievable. But this is the Rotten Tomatoes score, which is the public's scores. You know, the public rates movies on Rotten Tomatoes, and I guess they compiled the scores of horror films or what they consider horror films, and that's what's on this list. So it's a crazy list. uh, there's some that are obvious. There's some that are like, I don't really consider that a horror film, but okay. And there's some that I haven't heard of, and some that I haven't seen. Quite a few of those. But yeah, I was speaking to Noah before we went live here, and I watched some of the last show, and like the first 10 minutes, my screen kept freezing. The audio wouldn't do it, but my screen kept freezing, and it finally straightened itself out and quit that. I don't know what caused that. I've got gig internet, and I've got the modem hooked directly up to the modem hooked directly up to my laptop. But the internet had gone off right before last week's show and come on right away. So it might have been a connection issue or something like that. Hopefully it's not my laptop. It's about 7 years old, this laptop. I want a new one. I want a laptop with at least 32 gigabytes of memory. And it has a memory card reader, because I want to use it for editing my new movie, in addition to, doing the shows. So if anyone wants to make a donation, if anyone out there's got some deep pockets, because those things are about $600 or so. Yeah. Hey, yeah. I prefer Hewlett Packard, 32 gigabytes of memory card reader. If anybody out there wants to make a donation, I'll give you production credit for my movie, The List. I've got I've got an actor reading the script now, and hopefully he likes it. He's actually a professional actor. He was in my last film, Crystal, Paris Randall. So hopefully, because I have a part I think he would be really good for The List. So, but hopefully I'll hear back from him, and hopefully he liked it. We'll see. But hopefully we're not going to have any major snafus with the video and that kind of thing. And yes, I am in my underwear, and yes, you are seeing part of my naked body, because it got hot again in Texas. We had a cold front come in. Yesterday morning was in the 40s. And this morning was in the high 40s, low 50s. And then it's going to start getting steadily warmer. And by mid next week, it's supposed to be in the 90s again. So, crazy Texas weather. Well, typical Texas weather. So, but before we get started, anything going on with you, Noah, that you want to talk about? Or
not too much. I did get to see Terrifier 3 in the theater this week, so that was nice. I even got my little...
I'm supposed to see it Sunday, and which is a rare treat for me, because I never get a chance to go to an actual movie theater anymore. But the friends I've made down at the campground down the lake here, Melissa and Tim, they're going to they're supposed to be taking a break for me and to endure Terrifier 3 and take me to go see Terrifier 3. So, I pulled up the bedroom scene on YouTube to kind of give them an idea of what they're going to be in for.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, oh my God. So, Jay, but 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 Tim, the husband Tim, he likes Art the Clown. He said, oh, okay, I like Art. Kind of doing that. After slaughtering that girl and skinning her alive. He said, well, okay, that's funny, even though it's gruesome. But
I think you'll be happy. I think I don't actually like the first two that much, but I really liked this one. I think it's the best one yet. Um, the the acting's better, the cinematography's better, the script is tighter. It's he just keeps getting better with every movie. So
I actually really like the second one. The first one is just pretty much a proof of concept film,
yeah,
for Art the Clown, because I know Art appeared in before that, and what was that compilation film? What was that?
All Hallows Eve.
Yeah, but played by a different actor. It would
Yeah,
play with Howard Thornton, but yeah, the gore's really good and Terrifier, but there's almost no plot to it.
right.
It's just Art killing. Um, the second one attempts some story, and it's got a final girl, and and I like that a whole lot better. Part two.
Yeah, part two is notably better than part one. I think my problems with it were I did feel it was a little too long, and maybe the script. I just some of it just didn't work for me. Some of it works really well, and the lead gal is great, and she's even better in this one. So
Yeah, and of course David Howard Thornton's just a really good actor. I think.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
If you see interviews with him, he's almost like a nerd. Got glasses. Is like that's the guy that plays Art. But with the makeup and the prosthetic nose and all that, and just like it's pretty much all mine. Of course he doesn't talk, but he's really good. I mean, at conveying really creepy moments, but also being funny as hell. And can turn on a dime with those two things. Be just really disturbing and then makes you laugh.
oh yeah.
So. But yeah, really looking forward to it, and of course, it's taking place during Christmas time. Man, you got me right there. So
Yeah, Christmas horror is always fun.
yeah, so yeah, hopefully that be able to do that on Sunday. Really looking forward to that. That'll be the first movie I've seen in a theater in close to 2 years.
Wow.
That's how long it's been.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get started, I guess. And this is, like I say, this is Rotten Tomatoes, their list of the top 200 horror films. And we got up to 162 last time. And 161, I'm a big fan of. This movie, there's been a trend kind of beginning with Stranger Things and in the It films, particularly part one, to kind of capture the feel of an 80s film. The look and feel of an 80s film. A movie that was shot in the 80s, not necessarily taking place in the 80s, but the look of a movie that was filmed in the 80s.
Right.
And the Black Phone to me, Black Phone, that's the movie, The Black Phone. It looks like a movie that was shot in the 80s. It has a feel. It didn't take place in the 80s, does it?
I don't think so.
I don't think it takes place during the 80s. I forget what the time frame is in the movie, but it feels like a movie that come from the 80s. To me, it does. It's got kids kind of in the lead, so it almost has a feel of like an early Spielberg film, I see a little John Carpenter in there. The feel of it, yeah. But no, I really like the Black Phone. And this is the plot. The Black Phone, or what it says about it, the Black Phone might have been even more frightening, but it remains an entertaining, well-acted adaptation of a scarily good source material. And that source material is based on a story by Joe Hill, who is Stephen King's son. Um, and it's directed by Scott Derrickson. And who's the kids? Is Mason Thames, Madeline McGraw, Jeremy Davies is in it. And the plot, more or less, is about you meet this brother and sister, school age kids, and the brother is abducted. A van pulls up and abducts this guy in a creepy mask, real, this big wide grin, this mask he's wearing, abducts him and keeps him prisoner in a basement, a cellar, and he's a killer. He's a child murderer, but he's stringing him along and keeping him terrified in this basement and cellar. And on the wall of this basement is a black phone, per the title of the film. And occasionally this phone will ring and the boy will answer, and he talks to recent victims of the killer, the ghosts, that kind of help him along to sort of figure things out on how he might escape, or what he can to do to kind of herd this guy off, the killer. And it's an interesting plot. I think it's well done, well acted, and it's Ethan Hawke of all people playing the guy in the mask, the killer. Ethan Hawke. Which we wouldn't imagine him playing that kind of role, Ethan Hawke, but he does a really good job. So, anyway, your thoughts on the Black Phone?
Yeah, no, it's pretty solid movie. I actually the collection, the Joe Hill story collection that's in, I read when that came out first, and that's one of my favorite short story collections. It's in a collection called 20th Century Ghosts. And I highly recommend that. If you like Black Phone, you'll like the other stories in the book, because they have a lot of similarities, obviously, since it's the same author. But yeah, no, it's very solid. It's pretty true to the story. Ethan Hawke, like you said, is really good. Kind of unusual casting for him, but he's been doing a lot of different stuff lately. He's done some Marvel stuff and stuff like that. And yeah, no, I think it's pretty solid. Scott Derrickson, he's not the best director, but he's a solid director. Yeah. I definitely don't mind it being on this list. So.
Well, no, I quite enjoyed it, and like I say, to me, it has the feel and look and feel of a film that was shot in the '80s. Although I don't think it takes place during the '80s, but yeah, and it's got an 81% score, and Black Phone 161, 160. I have heard of this movie forever, and I've never seen it. So let's see if you've seen it. 3 Extremes. This is 2005, 86% score. This anthology contains brutal, powerful horror stories by 3 of Asia's top directors, and directed by Fruit Chan, Takashi Miike, and Park Chan-wook. We talked about Takashi Miike with Audition. And but have you seen this?
I have not, which is strange, because Takashi Miike and Park Chan-wook are like 2 of my favorite directors. So, but I think I don't think this is ever. I don't know if it's ever been out on Blu-ray. I think I bought the DVD back in the day, but Yeah, for some reason I've just never watched it. I don't know if it's just availability issue or what, but
Well, yeah, Three Extremes, and like I say, I've heard of this film since it came out. I've never seen it, but I've heard of it, and of course, I love anthology films, so it's definitely one that I want to see. Um,
I know there were multiple versions of it too, which was kind of confusing because I think one or two of the stories were released by themselves in like expanded forms, at least overseas. I don't know about over here,
but anyway, it's got an 86% score, and like I say, Three Extremes, and it's an anthology film from Asia. But yeah, definitely on my list, and this next one's on my list too, and I haven't seen it either. Uh, Dracula: Pages from a Virgin's Diary, and this is 2002. Guy Madden's film is a richly sensuous and dreamy interpretation of Dracula that reinvigorates the genre, and it's directed by Guy Madden. Have you seen that?
I have not. I have seen some scenes from it back in one of my film classes in college, and I've seen maybe one or two Guy Madden films. They're always very visually interesting, but they're very art house, so they're not necessarily for everybody. But yeah,
87% score, 2002. Yeah, Dracula: Pages from a Virgin's Diary. So yeah, neither one of us has seen it, so we'll move on. That's 159. Oh my gosh, 158. One of my all-time faves. Good Lord, Vincent Price is just amazing in this. I love him in so many things. But this is The Abominable Dr. Phibes, 1971, 88% score. The Abominable Dr. Phibes juggles horror and humor, but under the picture's campy facade, there's genuine pathos brought poignantly to life through Price's performance. And it's Vincent Price, Joseph Cotton, Terry Thomas, Hugh Griffin, and Robert. How do you pronounce that? Fuist?
something like that. I don't know.
Oh gosh, no! I love this movie. It what is that series of films where where death comes back to wreak havoc and
Final Destination.
Final Destination. This is kind of early Final Destination, Dr. Phibes, where
I can see that.
The way he kills people is kind of sort of these elaborate sort of traps he set for people. Sometimes it's bees. He puts bees through this like pipe or something. Well, anyway, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Vincent Price wears this mask through most of the film, and he talks through a speaker in his neck, so you don't actually see him speak. He's got this mask, but no, it's a whole lot of fun. Vincent Price is great in it. It's just a fun movie. Kind of campy. Like I said, it's got a lot of humor to it. Vincent Price is just amazing in it to me. One of my favorites from him in particular, Vincent Price. So, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it and the sequel are great. It is unusual how Vincent Price is so known for his voice, but in those films, like you said, it's through that kind of like vocoder device on his neck. So it's a kind of a different performance for him in that respect. But he's of course fantastic in everything. So and they're very funny, very funny. I particularly like the. No, go ahead.
He says it about 1,000 times, but every time he says it, I love it. I love the way he says, "Oh, Davy."
Yeah.
"Oh, Davy," which is his partner. This lady, this gal, that's his partner. And but anyway, he his wife is like in a coma, and but he's wants to resurrect her, and he's taking revenge on people that he feels is responsible for his wife's predicament. So,
Right.
and yeah, it's these little traps he sets for people that reminds me of what came out later in Final Destination. It was kind of step by step sort of, ways to kill people.
Yeah, like the Rube Goldberg style.
Rube Goldberg, that's what. Yeah, I was looking for that Rube Goldberg. But yeah, a whole lot of fun. And the sequels, I don't know if the sequel's on here, but Dr. Fives Rides Again was a lot of fun too. So
yeah.
But anyway, 88% score, and that's 158. The Abominable Dr. Fives. Okay, here's another one that like I said several times last week. This needs to be much higher on the list. One of the all-time greats, probably top 20 at least, if not top 10, for my own personal list. The Omen. 1976, 85% score. The Omen eschews an excess of gore in favor of ramping up the suspense and creates an enduring, dread-soaked horror classic along the way. And of course, Richard Donner, who did a lot of great movies. Superman. So many great movies, Richard Donner. And my probably, I think it's my second favorite Twilight Zone episode is the what is it? Nightmare at 20,000 Feet.
Yeah.
He directed that, the original Twilight Zone. But he did a lot of great films, by Richard Donner. But anyway, Gregory Peck, of course, Lee Remick, David Warner, Billy Whitelaw, and what can you say? It's the devil's son or the devil's offspring, and great film. Yeah, it doesn't have a whole lot of gore, but it's got some really cool kills in it, and really the performance by Gregory Peck is great. Lee Remick's great in it. The kid is really creepy. You have Damien, the 666 on the forehead, and where I'm at, my head, our zip code is 76667. So we've got the mark of the beast in our zip code. So
there you go.
But anyway, what can you say about The Omen? Come on, who hasn't seen The Omen and who doesn't hold it very in high regard? But anyway, what do you have to say about The Omen?
I can't add much. I mean, Richard Donner is probably one of the best American directors of all time. Cast is great. I love David Warner in everything. He gets the flashiest death scene in this one. Also has Patrick Troughton, who's a great character actor. He plays the priest who gets skewered. I also, whenever I think about this, I also think of the old, I don't know if you've ever seen the old SNL sketch where they make fun of.
Oh, with Richard Pryor?
Yeah.
Don't you talk about my mama?
Yeah.
Your mama eats kitty litter. What's that? Yeah.
But they also they're like, oh, he's got 3 6s on his head, and he looks at it.
That's the Exorcist.
Yeah, you're thinking of the Exorcist one.
No,
yeah.
What am I thinking? But tell me about the SNL version.
The SNL one, it's basically like, Damien's this creepy kid and all this stuff, and they're like, well, we need to see if he's got the mark of the beast on his forehead, and they pull his hair back, but they look over from the top, and they're like, oh, it's fine, it's just 3 9s.
I don't remember that. That's cool, though. Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about the Exorcist one. Yeah, but
that's a good one too, though. Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, like I say, we could go on and on about The Omen. We could do a show about The Omen, but we won't do that.
Yeah.
But,
and that I will say the Jerry Goldsmith score.
I was just about to say.
Amazing.
That. Yeah, you stepped on me. I was going to say the 2 greatest film composers ever is John Williams and Jerry Goldsmith, and to me, And Jerry
Sure.
Goldsmith's score is just really unique. The chanting, sort of Gregorian chants or something, uh, whatever you call that, and great score, great movie, a classic, of course.
Mm-hmm.
What can you say? The Omen, and it's got an 85% score and 1976. So yeah. Okay, 156. I have not seen. I watched part 2 yesterday, and I really like the first 2 films, and really anxious to see this one. I think it's streaming somewhere, but I need to find it. And this is A Quiet Place Day One. Grounded in raw humanity by Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn, this sideways entry into a quiet place finds fresh notes of fright to play amid the silence. And Michael Sarnowski directed, and like I said, Lupita Nyong'o, Joseph Quinn, and but I haven't seen it. So, have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen any of these movies.
You're kidding.
I wasn't really interested in the first 2. That actor, husband wife team, something. I mean, they're fine, I'm sure, but there's something about them puts me off. But
The guy from The Office.
yeah. This one, I was going to go ahead, skip ahead, and watch this one though, because I have heard so many good things about it, and a lot of people said it's the best one. And since it's a prequel, you don't really need to have seen the first 2, I guess. But
Well, no, I actually really enjoyed the first 2, and
Yeah.
I watched part 2 again yesterday, but yeah, I haven't seen it. So, Quiet Place Day One, it's got an 87% score, and this is 2024, so it's fairly new. Oh my God! Here's another one that should be like number 2. Good Lord of mercy. And another film is like, well, what can you say about The Exorcist that hasn't been said? We just lost William Friedkin. What's like 6-7 months ago or something like that.
yeah,
He recently passed away, William Friedkin. The William Peter Blatty book and screenplay. And of course, Ellen Burstyn and Linda Blair and Max von Sydow and Lee J. Cobb. What can you say? Good Lord. I hardly even know where to begin with The Exorcist and where to end. That I won't even go really into it. But I find this movie just to be a great movie. Not just a great horror film, but just a great movie, period. Almost shot in a documentary style. By Friedkin. And I almost see The Exorcist as a story. To me, the lead character is the priest, having this sort of crisis of faith, and with his mother dying, and sort of losing his faith in God, and the trials that he's going through with that, crisis of faith, and having to deal with that when a demon possesses a little girl, and he's got to step up and do what he needs to do to help this little girl. And great performance by what's his name? Plays the priest. Lee J. Is that Lee J. Cobb?
I can't remember.
What is it? Anyway, great performance by him. Max von Sydow is amazing as this elderly priest. He wasn't actually elderly at the time. It was
Right.
Amazing makeup by Dick Smith on him. You can watch that thing in high definition, 4K and all that, and you still can't tell. He looks like an old man. Amazing makeup by Dick Smith on Max von Sydow. And good Lord, some of the most gripping, disturbing scenes ever put to film, and this is 1973. So amazing, imagining being in a theater and seeing some of the things that were put on screen in The Exorcist, um, and with the cross and the head turning around, and just yeah. Anyway, you go ahead about The Exorcist.
Well, it's kind of like you said. It's all been said. It's a great movie. I think you're right. I hate the phrase, but it kind of transcends the genre. It's a good movie, not just a good horror movie. Um, Friedkin stuff was always great, and it is more of it's more of a character piece, like you say about Karras. And he's honestly the most compelling thing about the film. As I get older, and the more I think about it, or the more I watch it, I'm watching it for his stuff. The horror moments are good, but it's I don't know. It's a classic. I think when I was very young and I watched it for the first time, I thought it was overrated because I'd heard so much about it. But no, it's a fantastic film. I wish they would stop trying to make more of them.
I finally saw Exorcist Believer, and sorry I did. What I hated most about Believer was Ellen Burstyn taking part in it. Which she did it just for the money. She was very vocal.
Of course.
Yeah, she was like a charity or something that she wanted donated to or something. She did it just for the money. She did not like the script. She said she hated the script. And where she's forced to say this line about, what's the hierarchy, where she wasn't allowed to be in the room during the exorcism. Well, that's just so much bullshit. It had nothing to do about the hierarchy. It was her putting her trust in these priests to save her daughter, and not wanting to see her daughter going through that horrible, malignant thing that's invading her body,
Right.
And yeah, oh God, terrible. But yeah, just a great film, a classic film, and I watch it probably at least once a year, and it seems like every year I sort of have a different perspective about it. Where, like I say, now when I watch it, to me it's not so much about Linda Blair and what she's going through, but it's about this priest and him having to come to terms with his own inner struggles and overcome them to save this little girl. So, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we got two great sequels from it. We got Exorcist 3 and Repossessed with Leslie Nielsen. So.
Well, Exorcist 3 is great. No,
it is great. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the best jump scares ever in film history is in Exorcist 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And George C. Scott, of course, is great in it. And originally it wasn't an Exorcist story, but yeah. But now, yeah, Exorcist 3. If you haven't seen Exorcist 3, go see Exorcist 3. It's a great film. Okay. And that's 155. It's got a 78% score, which is just crazy. And like I say, it being so low on the list at 155.
I mean, that's crazy low. I mean, I do think as time goes on, religious horror has become less effective for the overall general populace. I think some people, and this is not, I'm not saying anything about people's religion or faith here or anything like that, but when I listen to younger people talk about it, Some of them just find it silly. And I mean, time is just going to do that to movies and horror films in particular in general. People thought Bela Lugosi is terrifying as Dracula, and now,
Well,
you show that to a kid now, and they're going to think it's silly.
yeah, and when now people are walking out of Terrifier 3, and if you were to throw The Exorcist in front of them, they're going to go, come on.
Right,
know,
exactly.
It's really slow paced. It's a slow burn kind of film.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can see how some people would say it's boring, it's not scary. To me, though, it's really gripping and really effective. But
yeah.
I'm 59 years old. So,
right. I'm in my 40s, so
yeah.
I think it's a generational thing.
Yeah. Anyway, another fun film, and this is 154, Tremors. And this is 1990, 88% score, and affectionate throwback to 1950s creature features. Tremors reinvigorates his genre tropes with a finely balanced combination of horror and humor. And Ron Underwood is the director. And of course, got Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward, Finn Carter, Michael Gross. Just a lot of fun. Tremors. You got this sort of giant worm creature that burrows underground and then comes up, eats people and stuff. It's silly. It's got a few little jump scares, but it's not really a scary film. It's just a lot of fun. Tremors. And a lot of humor to it. And Kevin Bacon's a whole lot of fun in Tremors. Michael Gross is a whole lot of fun. What do you got to say about Tremors?
Yeah, it's just fun. To me, it is the perfect Sunday afternoon movie.
Good way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, you just put it on. It doesn't matter how many times you've seen it. You can just chill and enjoy it, whether you're paying attention or you're doing some other work. It's just, I've seen it 80,000 times probably on television over the years.
Well, it's almost a film you could put on sort of as a background,
Yeah.
What the hell? Put on Tremors, Back in the VHS days, it was a frequent rent. And it is. It's just something you just kind of just put on. You don't have to sit down and watch Tremors. Just kind of keep it on in the background because it's a whole lot of fun. But anyway, we've actually got someone commenting here. Day Starsaw, I feel those older horror films had a way better character development to them that added to the horror themes. That's why I like rewatching Exorcist. And all the new ones are forgettable without that. Good point.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
The idea of character development is kind of a lost art. Telling a story about people, and The Exorcist ultimately is a story about real people.
Yeah.
Dealing with extraordinary circumstances, and like I say, the way William Friedkin treated it and the way William Peter Blatty treated it in his book and screenplay was to give you real people, real breathing people dealing with a supernatural event. But good point there. Yeah, about
I think the problem is you have these studio execs who, to have good character in a film, that person has to be complicated and have opinions that may not jive with the lowest common denominator or the widest audience of people, and I think these executives are terrified of their movie saying or doing something that might potentially keep people from paying for a ticket, so they don't take any chances. And
that's the thing is, and I've said this many times, it's like the biggest crime you can commit these days is to offend somebody. And what's the worst that will happen if you offend somebody? They're still going to live to breathe another day,
right.
but William Friedkin is a perfect example of a director that just told his story the way he wanted to tell it. He didn't. There's no compromises. He put it out there. And to tell William Peter Blatty's story, they kind of combined, forces to tell this story, and he surely thought there's going to be people offended. There's going to be people,
right?
But to tell this story effectively, you got to take those chances. You got to show what's in the book and what's in the screenplay.
Yeah.
And you put it out there, and the audience decides if they're going to be offended, if they're going to love it, if they're going to hate it, if they're going to be shocked by it, whatever. But like directors like William Friedkin and Francis Coppola and so many, Martin Scorsese, that just told their stories the way it needed to be told, the way they saw it,
Well, and I'm not saying Damien Leone's on the same level, but Terrifier 3 is #1 at the box office. Talk about a movie that you would imagine the majority of people wouldn't want to see.
And and you take this film that was just like a little no budget indie with the first film, that with crowdfunding got a little bit more money for part 2. And now it's kicking Joker 2's ass and kicking all the
and it's unrated. I mean,
unrated, and
it would unheard of seeing an unrated movie in the theaters.
Well, also something that's this extraordinarily gory, which I'm assuming it is.
Sure, yeah.
And that it's #1 is just like, it gives you hope for the world now.
Right. But it's a film it has a strong voice, and it is not afraid to take chances. And people want to see that kind of stuff, whether it's horror or drama or whatever. They're tired of these boring cookie cutter movies that keep coming out.
And that's a great point. And hopefully this will be an example about you just put your film out there and tell it the way you want to tell it, and people are going to come.
Yep.
And now, hopefully, they're going to say, well, okay, they're going to give more directors an opportunity to just tell their story and put it out there, no matter how, unpopular or shocking or gruesome it may be. Not necessarily horror films, but just films in general.
I hope so. I hope they realize that there are no sure bets anymore when it comes to film. You've got these, $300 million films totally failing, while you've got, a little $2 million movie making it, 20, 30 times its budget. So, but they probably won't learn. They haven't learned in the last 100 years. I don't think they'll start now. So.
Well, and what's typical about something like this is, with something like Terrifier 3 being so popular, the typical reaction is, well, give us more of that,
Right.
And
just clone it. Yeah.
But I don't want more of that. I want more of that kind of effort behind the camera, and less of the censorship by whoever the powers that be.
We want creativity, not uniformity.
Yes. Perfectly put. But anyway, back to Tremors. Whole lot of fun. Yeah, Tremors is a whole lot of fun. 1990. That's 154. Oh man, I really want to see this film. I still have not seen it. This is just my kind of movie, though. It looks just like something I would just absolutely love. Abigail, 2024, 83% score. Carrying off well-worn vampire tropes with a balletic flourish, Abigail dances around the familiarity of its premise with a game cast in slick style. And I wouldn't even try to pronounce this director. Matt Bettinelli, Alpin, and Tyler Gillette, two directors. Melissa Barrera, Dan Stevens, Catherine Newton, and William Catlett. And anyway, yeah, Abigail, and it's a little ballerina vampire. So, and what's the basic plot of Abigail? Have you seen Abigail?
Haven't seen it yet. I mean, the trailer pretty much gives everything away, and I know people were critical of that. They're like, "Oh, well, it spoiled the surprise." But if you didn't have that in there, people wouldn't know what it is or go see it. So I get it. But yeah, I mean, they're supposed to be kidnapping this little girl and holding her for ransom, but it's all just a trap to get her alone with them so she can feed on them. At least that's the impression I've got.
Yeah.
And the directors, I need to see it because I've really liked everything they've done. They go by their team name is Radio Silence. I don't know if you've heard of that before. They directed Southbound, which was an anthology film from quite a few years ago, and they did the last two Scream movies. So, but yeah, they're talented guys. So I'm sure it's good. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah, well, it definitely it's high on my list. The one that I want to catch up on is Abigail. It looks like a lot of fun. In the trailer, like I say, the trailer pretty much you see the movie almost. And I don't necessarily think that should have been a big secret that Abigail's a vampire, but they just show so much in the trailer.
They show too many of the kills seems are in the trailer. So I don't know. That's a tough movie to market, though. I would think.
Yeah. But anyway, criminals kidnap a little girl who is a really old vampire child, but it has a "what do we have in common" dynamic added onto the and then there was one style.
Like a Cat and the Canary kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, definitely one that I'm anxious to watch. Hopefully, I'll be able to see that soon. That one and Long Legs and Strange Darling. The kind of the top three films I really want to see pretty soon.
Yeah, a lot of stuff came out this year. It was hard to keep up.
Yeah. And of course, Terrifier 3. Hopefully Sunday. Hopefully. And okay, that is 2020. No, 2024, Abigail, and 153. I have not seen 152. It is The Dark and the Wicked, 2020. It's got a 91% score. The Dark and the Wicked delivers on its title with an unsettling horror story whose deep dread and bleak outlook further compound its effective jolts. Brian Bertino directed. I haven't seen this though. Dark and the Wicked.
Yeah, I've never even heard of it. So
no.
Put it on my list, I guess.
Dark and the Wicked, 2020, 91% score. Yeah. No. We're gonna skip over that one. Haven't seen that one. Oh God, here's another one. Should be much higher on the list. I've always been a big fan of Joe Dante, period. He started out just very sort of independent, sort of making these, real low budget films, of course, Piranha, and always liked his style. You could tell he was a fan of old horror, that kind of putting his spin on old horror tropes and old horror, styles. But anyway, Gremlins, 1984, 86% score. Whether you choose to see it as a statement on consumer culture or simply a special effects heavy popcorn flick, Gremlins is a minor classic. Joe Dante, Jack Galligan, Phoebe Cates, Hoyt Axton, and Francis Lee McCain. And but anyway, you get this little creature called a Mogwai, and you got these rules Can't feed it after midnight. You can't get it wet. And of course, they're going to break the rules. And both are going to happen. And so Gizmo, the little mogwai creature, cute little creature, uh, gets wet, and these little gremlins pop off his body. He gives birth to a bunch of them, and then they in turn eat after midnight and become these big, gruesome creatures, gremlins. But I love Dick Miller in it. I interviewed Dick Miller. You can go to the Dead Pit site, Dead Pit YouTube page. You can look up my interview with Dick Miller. I love him in this film. A lot of fun. Should be a whole lot higher. Gremlins. Yeah. What do you have to say about Gremlins?
Yeah, definitely. It would definitely be in my top 10, probably. Gremlins and Explorers, another Joe Dante movie.
Now, what's that one?
Explorers?
Oh, Explorers. Yes.
Yeah. Gremlins and Explorers were like, when I think of those movies, I just think of being a kid. Because I watched them.
Good. Oh, man, it's been forever since I've seen Explorers. River Phoenix.
Yep.
And who else in Explorers?
Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke, yes.
Yeah.
Ethan Hawke from Black Phone.
Yep. But I would watch Gremlins and Explorers an endless number of times when I was a kid. And so the feeling of those Joe Dante movies is just super nostalgic for me. And I mean, Gremlins, I felt like was a gateway horror film because it's, Spielberg produced in PG-13 or whatever. PG-13, I can't remember.
Well, I think Gremlins was actually PG.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It was Gremlins and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom that kind of the reason why PG-13 was created. Because when Gremlins came out, there was a lot of parents that were upset at the intensity of it. It was a little too. It's not gory by any means, but there's some deaths in it. These gremlins kill people, and it's pretty intense for a film that's kind of made for kids.
Yeah, it's got some adult horror in it. Even though it's not super explicit. They make fun of it in the second one, but that story Phoebe Cates tells about her dad.
Yeah, playing Santa Claus and coming down the chimney, and
that is so dark.
Yeah, yeah. And I love how they spoof that in part 2. But
yeah, like President's Day or something. But no, I mean it's still such a unique movie. There's never anything like it before or after, and I think it's ridiculous that they call it a minor hit or a minor classic in that description. How many horror films have successful children's cartoons based on them that are running 40 years later?
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a popular thing. I haven't watched the cartoon show.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Joe Dante, of course, and I am too, was a huge Warner Brothers cartoon fan.
Yeah.
The old Chuck Jones cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
And you definitely can see that influence in Gremlins. The old Chuck Jones cartoons. The way they get with that great scene in the bar with the Gremlins. And in the movie theater, and you definitely can see that influence of the old Chuck Jones, the old Warner Brothers cartoons.
Yeah.
See that influence, in the direction and the way that it looks. Great creature designs for the Gremlins.
Oh, yeah.
For Gizmo and was it Stripe?
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
And think about how many knockoffs that movie generated. You had all the Critters films. You had the Munchies. You had Hobgoblins. You had
Ghoulies.
Puppet Master. Yeah, exactly. So many movies trying to cash in on that, and it created like a whole micro genre of films, basically.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just a whole lot of fun, and like you say, it should be probably top 10. It shouldn't be 151. Anyone's got an 86% score, and 1984 Gremlins. But yeah, it's a classic. Um, here's one. Oh, hang on. I'm screwed up here. Uh, while I'm scrolling, tell us what the title is.
Oh, I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, okay. Hang
My
on.
my tablet died.
All right. Well, just a minute. I pressed the wrong button or something here, so I got to scroll back and find it again. Yeah, just a moment. Okay. I don't know what I did. I hit back or something. Okay. Gremlins is 151. This is, uh, I actually saw this not too long ago. The Mummy, 1932. Carl Freund directed, relying more on mood and atmosphere than the thrills typical of a modern horror fair. Universal's The Mummy sets a masterful template for mummy-themed films to follow. And of course, Boris Karloff, uh, and yeah. Anyway, it's a classic. It's old horror, you know. Uh, what is it? It was it the Universal horror?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Uh, old black and white horror film, The Mummy. It's you know, it's I get in the mood for a film like that sometimes. Get going way back, I like watching the old Christopher Lee Dracula films, and but yeah, The Mummy, um, and Boris Karloff, uh, and uh, just uh, yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about The Mummy, but it's old classic black and white horror, and Boris Karloff, uh, and you know, but anyway, yeah. Um, anyway, that's number 150. It's got an 89% score, 1932. The Mummy. Okay, here's another one that I really, really want to see, but I haven't seen it yet. Uh, my understanding is it kind of captures the feel of the original. I don't know if there's some people that sort of complain about that they're just sort of copying the original and just sort of remaking the original in a way. And that is Alien Romulus. And this is 2024, honoring its nightmarish predecessors while chest bursting at the seams with new frights of its own. Romulus injects some fresh and acid blood into one of cinema's great horror franchises. And Feed Alvarez directed, but I haven't seen it. I really want to see it. The first Alien, which hopefully is on the list, is probably like number 3 or 4 of my favorite horror films. I consider it a horror film. Some people don't consider Alien to be a horror film. I consider it to be a horror film. It's a monster in space film. It's almost like a slasher film in space. The original Alien. But yeah, Alien Romulus, a fairly recent film. I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
I have. It's not bad. I liked it for the most part. It does some very interesting things and some new things, which is good for that series because I mean I love Alien. I like Aliens. I could pretty much take or leave the rest of the franchise though. And so this is definitely it's better than the average sequel, but some of it's a little overly some of it's a little contrived, and some of the characters aren't terribly interesting. Uh, but it wasn't bad. It's not a waste of your time, but I don't know if it'll blow your socks off or anything, you know.
Well, and does it kind of what a lot of the reviews I say, it kind of captures that horror feel of the first one.
Yeah, it's definitely it definitely has more tension than the last few films in the series. Unfortunately, there are some kind of elaborate CGI sequences that kind of are a little too action movie. It's trying to be somewhere between the first two movies. You know,
Sure.
it's trying to have some compelling action sequences while also being scary. And for the most part, it succeeds. I just wasn't as interested in the action set pieces.
Yeah. Well, okay, yeah, definitely is on my list. Alien Romulus. It's got an 80% score and 149. 148 I have not seen. Sputnik 2020. Effective space alien horror, which is just my kind of movie. With the Soviet era twist, Sputnik proves there are still some scary, good sci fi thrillers left in the galaxy. This 2020 Sputnik. Um, Igor Abraменko as a director. Yeah, I haven't seen it. Have you seen Sputnik?
Never heard of it.
Okay. Well, I guess we
I'll
can
put it on my list.
we can move on. But alien horror, I like Alien. Well, I'm all for that. So
Yeah, I love space horror. Event Horizon, that's a great one.
yeah, I love Event Horizon.
Yeah.
But yeah, 88% score, 2020 Sputnik. But yeah, we haven't seen it, so we'll move on. I watched this. I had fun with it. I don't think it's great. I really wouldn't put it on this list. It was a fun movie. Uh, it's got a very Back to the Future vibe to it, which basically I think Back to the Future is even mentioned in the film. Totally killer. Uh, Totally Killer may not take full advantage of its promising conceit, but this time traveling horror sci fi mashup is still enjoyable overall. And Nana Nachka Khan directed. I know I massacred that name, but this is 2023. Another sort of 80s film, sort of 80s feel, in a literal, 80s, where this girl travels. She's kind of a, what do they call kids these days? What do they call them? The way their attitudes and all that. What's the term they use for kids these days?
Christ, if I know.
Sir?
I said I have no idea.
Oh well. What? It's anyway. You get a girl, modern day teenage girl, that travels back into the 80s, and I believe, if I'm remembering right, it's to prevent her friends from getting, they get killed by like a serial killer, her friends. So she travels back in time through a time machine, kind of like a phone booth kind of thing, travels back in time to prevent their deaths with varying results. It's fun. Like I said, I don't think it's great, but I had fun with it. Totally killer. 2023, 87% score. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's fun. I mainly watched it. I really like the lead actress, Kiernan Shipka. She was in the Oz Perkins film, The Blackcoat's Daughter, which I'm a big fan of. So I watched it for her. It's pretty entertaining. It's very much in the vein of like Freaky or Happy Death Day, that kind of retro 80s horror comedy kind of thing. So if you like that stuff, you'll probably like it, But if you have an aversion to that, I probably wouldn't recommend it,
Well, it's kind of like if you took Back to the Future and sort of crossed it with a horror comedy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's good. I thought it was good, though. I enjoyed it.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, another one I haven't seen, The Night House 2020, led by Rebecca Hall's gripping sensual performance, The Night House offers atmospheric horror that engages intellectually as well as emotionally. And it's Rebecca Hall, Sarah Goldberg, and David Bruckner directed. And this is 88% score, 2020, The Night House. I haven't seen it.
Didn't like it. The first half hour has some promise. It has like this kind of mysterious atmosphere that works really well. But once the plot really kicks in, I didn't like it. Didn't click for me. It was well enough made, and that the acting was fine, but the story just fell totally flat for me.
Okay. Well, Night House, 2020, 88% score. Yeah. Okay. 145. It's been forever and a day since I've seen it. It's one I need to revisit because I really like Guillermo del Toro's directing style. I always liked his visuals. And it's a Kronos. 1993, 90% score. Guillermo del Toro's unique feature debut is not only gory and stylish, but also charming and intelligent. Federico Lupi, Ron Perlman's in it. But anyway, yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say because it's been so long since I've seen Kronos. But how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it a couple times. I think Del Toro's Spanish language films are much better than his English language films. But I think Kronos is the weakest of his Spanish language films. It's got some cool ideas and some cool designs, but again, that's one where the story kind of loses momentum as it goes on for me personally. But I mean, it's still, I would still say it's a good movie, and if you are looking for something that's a twist on the vampire genre or monster, then it's worth checking out for that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, 145 Kronos, 1993, 90% score. Yeah. Okay. 144. I've seen the first two. I don't think I've seen this one. And this is Fear Street 3, 1666. And this is 2021, 88% score. Fear Street Part 3, 1666 sends the slasher series back in time for a trilogy concluding installment that caps things off on a screaming high note. Leigh Janiak directed. Yeah, I don't think I've seen Fear Street 3. I saw the first two and really enjoyed them. But how about you?
I only saw the first one. I really liked it though. Just haven't gotten around to it. The trailer for that one reminded me a lot of Ginger Snaps 3, because it's like those characters but way back in time.
Yeah. Well, 1666. I'm assuming it's
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I haven't seen it, but definitely want to see it. And that's 144. Fear Street 3, 2021, 88% score. This is another one that it's been so long since I've seen it. I don't really have a lot to say about it. But it's one I need to revisit. The Haunting, 1963. Both psychological and supernatural, The Haunting is a chilling character study. Julie Harris, Claire Bloom, Richard Johnson, Russ Tamblyn, and Robert Wise directed. It's got a great cast, really good director, but it's been so long since I've seen The Haunting, I can't really talk a whole lot about it. How about you?
For me, that might be in my top 10 as well. I think it's very well acted, but Robert Wise's direction, and I can't think of another film that genuinely scared me just through basic camera work and some sound design. I mean, it's all implied horror. But if you watch that, by yourself, alone at night in the dark, and you get into it, man, I mean, for me, it was crazy effective, and I really, really love that movie.
It's one that get to you if you watch it by yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I say, it's one I definitely need to revisit. I know I've seen it, but it's been forever a day, so I don't have a vivid memory of it. But anyway, 87% score, 1963, The Haunting. Robert Wise, like I say, looks like a great cast, and of course that director is great, Robert Wise. So this one I think is pretty effective. I really like Nicole Kidman in it. The Others, 2001. The Others is a spooky thriller that reminds us that a movie doesn't need expensive special effects to be creepy. And Nicole Kidman, Christopher Eccleston, Alejandro Amador, forget it.
All right.
Alejandro, I got Alejandro. But anyway, I really like The Others. And I really like Nicole Kidman's performance in it. It's emotional. It's an emotional story coupled with a horror film. So anyway, what do you have to say about that?
It's funny. It's funny that this comes right after The Haunting, because they're very similar films, I think. And The Others is well made, but I think this is a situation where either those characters click for you or they don't. And for me personally, the characters didn't work, and it just kind of left me bored. I hate to say that because that sounds harsh, but you're right. It's another character piece, but I couldn't get into it for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe if I watch it now, I'd have a completely different attitude about it. But
well, it kind of affected me. Like I say, I think Nicole Kidman's really good in it, and I think
she is a great actress.
Yeah, I think her performance is really good, and it actually got to me emotionally what she's going through in the film.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, yeah. It worked for me. The Others. But anyway, it's got an 84% score. 2001. The Others 142. 141. Vincent Price again. Theater of Blood. And deliciously campy and wonderfully funny, Theater of Blood features Vincent Price at his melodramatic best. And Diane Riggs in it, Robert Morley, Douglas Hickox directed. Douglas Hickox, 1973, 88% score, Theater of Blood. Fun Vincent Price movie. That's about all I got to say about it.
It reminds me a lot of Dr. Phibes in the respect that it has, the humorous murder set pieces throughout. Diana Riggs great in it. It's super funny.
Yeah.
It's great. If you like Vincent Price, it's a no-brainer. So.
Yeah. Okay, another one I haven't seen. Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale, 2010. Rare Exports is an unexpectedly delightful crossbreed of deadpan comedy and Christmas horror. Speaking of Terrifier 3, another Christmas horror. Jalmari Helander. I just massacre these names. But anyway, Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale, 89% score, 2010. Yeah, I haven't seen it. So.
Haven't seen it either.
But it sounds like fun. So I'll look that up. And that's 140. 139. This one, it's been a long time since I've seen this too, but I think it's very effective. Um, but it's an old movie, 1933 Island of Lost Souls, led by a note perfect performance from Charles Lawton. Island of Lost Souls remains the definitive film adaptation of its classic source material. And Charles Lawton, Bela Lugosi, Richard Arlen, uh, and it's Earl C. Kenton directed Island of Lost Souls. And yeah, it's a classic. If you're in the mood for like an old classic horror film, this will do the job. What do you have to say about it?
Yeah, it's a classic. I really, really love this film. It's an adaptation of The Island of Dr. Moreau, which, they've made into a film several times, and they have yet to do it better than the first time around. So,
yeah. When it's kind of like this mad doctor that's doing crossbreeding with animals and people, and I think it's where Devo got their tagline, "Are we not men?"
That's right. Are we not men?
Are we not men? I love Devo. Devo's I love.
Devo. Oh, Devo's awesome. Yeah,
I love Devo. But that's where they got their tagline. Are we not men? Island of Lost Souls, or Island of Dr. Moreau. And of course, that Marlon Brando version is just absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to see it just to see it. Just to see Marlon Brando with an ice bucket on his head, like 400 pounds, white makeup on his face, and talking with this lisp when he talks. Marlon Brando, yeah, Island of Dr. Moreau.
The world's smallest man.
Yeah, the little guy.
Yeah.
That's where Mini Me came from.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, great film, Island of Lost Souls, adaptation of Island of Dr. Moreau. And it's got an 88% score in 1933. Yeah. Here's one I don't think I've seen. 2015's The Invitation. The Invitation makes brilliant use of its tension-rich premise to deliver a uniquely effective and surprisingly clever slow builder thriller. And Karen Kasama. Like I said, I'm a master of these names. I'm sorry. 138. The Invitation got a 90% score, 2015, but I don't think I've seen it. So.
You should definitely check it out. It is really good. One of the tensest thrillers I think I've ever seen.
Huh.
Because most of the film is just this dinner party, but the atmosphere and the tension generated by the conversations all leads up to something, kind of like a surprise ending. I would not have thought of it for this list because I don't necessarily think of it as a horror film. But I guess it is. And it's definitely worth checking out.
Well, I've got a long list here. But The Invitation 2015, 90% score. 138. 137. Once again, I don't think I've seen it. Only Lovers Left Alive, 2013, 86% score. I love Jim Jarmusch, though. I've always said the reason why I shot my movie Dawn 21 years ago, the reason why I shot it in black and white was because of Jim Jarmusch's Down by Law with Tom Waits and Roberto Benigni. You have these escaped convicts. And Jim Jarmusch just makes movies just about people, basically, and you follow these people on their journey, He's a really independent director, works with really low budgets usually. But I've never seen this, and I definitely need to see this. Only Lovers Left Alive. Worth watching for Tom Hiddleston's and Tilda Swinton's performance alone, Only Lovers Left Alive finds writer director Jim Jarmusch adding a typically offbeat entry into the vampire genre. Tilda Swinton, I love Tilda Swinton. She's just batshit crazy. Most of the characters she plays, she's just weird and offbeat, but I love her performances. I love Tilda Swinton. Tom Hiddleston, Anton Yelchin, but yeah, I love Jim Jarmusch, but I've never seen this. I tell you what, I did see recently by Jim Jarmusch is his zombie movie. What is it? What's it called? Shit, what was that zombie movie called? Anyway, Bill Murray's in it, and I loved it. You know, it was typical Jim Jarmusch. You know, The Dead Don't Die. That's what it's called. The Dead Don't Die. Yeah. Made just a few years ago. Yeah, Bill Murray's in it. It's certainly not for everybody. It's typical Jim Jarmusch. It's just mainly people talking for the most part, you know. But but I had fun with it. I love Bill Murray in it. I love Bill Murray in pretty much anything. His take on zombie films, you know. But the vampire film, I've heard of it, and I've heard of Tilda Swinton being a lot of weird in it, you know, which I love her anyway. But Only Lovers Left Alive, 2013, 86% score. Have you seen it?
No, I've only seen one or two Jarmusch films. I really love them, but I haven't seen this. I saw she reprises the character from this movie on What We Do in the Shadows, TV show. But I've seen that, but I haven't seen the movie. So.
Well, yeah, like I say, definitely is on my list because I've always liked the Jim Jarmusch stuff. And like I say, he influenced me a whole lot in making my own movie. Just his decision to make Down by Law and shoot it in black and white, and it was a late 70s, early 80s film or something like that. Just a decision to film a movie in black and white just for the look and feel of it, I thought was, at the time, I thought that was unique, and that influenced me to put Dawn out in black and white. Was directly influenced by Jim Jarmusch. So,
did you shoot Dawn on 16 millimeter?
No, it was shot on digital video.
Okay, so you'd use digital. Okay.
And I used a process called deinterlacing, which gave it sort of a 16 millimeter film look.
Gotcha.
Once I put it through that process, through editing. But yeah, the little tapes, you know, DV
tapes, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. I hope to film the next film. Hopefully I'll have a next film to film, and I've got a local actor that's reading the script. Hopefully he likes it. The list, I've got this damn 4K camera. I've had it for over 4 months, and I still have not turned the damn thing on.
That's
and new technology scares me. But like I say, but I paid like $500 for the damn thing. I got a bunch of extras. I got a widescreen, a wide angle lens, a bunch of extras, you know, with it. I'm really anxious to play with it and shoot in 4K. And there's a new format called 4K Lite, Light, which is a much smaller file size than regular 4K files. It's almost like regular HD, but you still have the 4K image, 4K Lite. And
that's interesting. I wonder if it's using the same kind of 4K compression codec that they use for streaming, because that's a much lower bit rate than actual 4K.
Yeah. And so that's that was my biggest concern, is how big the file size is going to be, because I definitely need to upgrade my, I've got a desktop with 16 gigabytes of memory, but I really want 32. And I really want to get a laptop with 32 gigabytes to edit on a laptop, so I can carry it around and move it from room to room and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Hopefully it works. I've got a 4-year warranty on it. So hopefully the damn thing works. After going over 4 months without turning it on, but Hopefully, I'll have a movie. I've got the two sister characters cast, but I need two men, and they're basically playing former child abusers, so it's not the most fun thing. but, but anyway, yeah, Only Lovers Left Alive, uh, and that's 137. 136. There's so many of these I haven't seen. Uh, I certainly have heard of it. A Tale of Two Sisters, 2003, 86% score. Restrained but disturbing, A Tale of Two Sisters is a creepily effective, at times confusing horror movie. Kim Ji Woon. So I'm assuming it's an Asian film. But yeah, have you seen it?
I saw it when it, I think, first came out on DVD. It's a South Korean film. I don't remember a thing about it though. But that was back when, like, they were just dumping Japanese and Korean and Chinese horror films onto the market. You know,
after the ring came out, then it's
Yeah, I mean, I know this one's considered a classic, but I just haven't watched it in 20 years probably. So.
But anyway, yeah, it's got an 86% score. 2003, A Tale of Two Sisters. 136. Oh, God. Once again, I have seen this, and it's been, but I don't have a vivid memory of it other than I liked it. Annihilation. Annihilation backs up its sci-fi visual wonders with visceral genre thrills with an impressively ambitious and surprisingly strange exploration of challenging themes that should leave audiences pondering long after the end credits roll. Alex Garland is the director. 2018, Annihilation. Natalie Portman, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Gina Rodriguez, Tessa Thompson. 2018, Annihilation. It's kind of a thought-provoking film of alien contact and why they're here and the kind of message they're trying to give us. Does that cover it?
Yeah, I think so. It's based on a series of novels, which are very good. I highly recommend the books. Very visually pleasing, great cast. It is essentially H.P. Lovecraft's The Color Out of Space in terms of the setup. It's a good movie, though I really hated the ending. They changed the ending from the book, and which I think they needed to, because the book is a part of a trilogy, and this movie is a standalone. But I did not like the decision. I don't like the way he changed it. And unfortunately, he's one of those directors where I feel like every movie he comes out with is worse than the last one. So, because he did Ex Machina, which was a great little sci-fi thriller.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, and then he did this, which I liked, like I said, except I just didn't like the ending. And then he came out with Men, which I hated. I hated that movie. And now I think he just came out with Civil War, and I know that got really bad reviews. I haven't seen it yet. But no, Annihilation is definitely at least worth a watch. It's very creative. So.
Okay, yeah, there's Annihilation 135. Alex Garland, 2018, got an 88% score. 135. And here we go. This another one. I like I say, I did enjoy this one quite a bit. Kind of a throwback to the old slasher films, but it kind of a modern twist too. And this is Fear Street Part 2, 1978. Taking place during 1978, which is, when slasher films were kind of at their peak, 78, 79, 80, And 2021 got an 87% score. Lade Janiak. I know, I'm screwing it up, the names. But as the director, a smart and subversive twist on slasher horror. Fear Street Part 2, 1978 shows that summer camp has never been scarier. thanks to stellar performances from Sadie Sink, Emily Rudd, and Ryan Simpkins. So, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've still only seen the first one, so
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
It's like I say, it's kind of a throwback film of the old slasher films, but it's got a modern twist to it also. That's about all I have to say about that. But Fear Street Part 2, 1978, 2021, 87% score. Oh gosh, this movie, because you talked about how Cronenberg's one of your favorite directors. Great performance by Christopher Walken. I'm a big Stephen King fan, so I read the actual novel here recently, Dead Zone, 1983. The Dead Zone combines taut direction from David Cronenberg and a rich performance from Christopher Walken to create one of the strongest Stephen King adaptations. Yeah. Brooke Adams, Tom Skerritt, Herbert Lom, and great performance by Christopher Walken. This man, he has it's a car accident, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
As a result, he has the ability to tell the future, someone's future, by touching them. And it's of course, Cronenberg is big on body horror. You really wouldn't call The Dead Zone a body horror movie, but in a way it is. Someone that's afflicted with this, ability, but it's almost like a cancer to him. It's almost like a disease or an illness, having this ability to foresee someone's future by, grabbing their arm or touching them. But yeah. I think it's a great film. Great performance by Christopher Walken. Great direction by Cronenberg. Anyway, what do you have to say about Dead Zone?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Super underrated, in my opinion. I don't think it gets talked about that much, really, especially compared to other Stephen King adaptations. There are two scenes that really stand out to me. The scene where the guy kills himself with a pair of scissors.
Yeah. That's
that is so.
When they talk about Dead Zone, they talk about that scene.
It's so odd and creepy. And then, when Martin Sheen's character is publicly outed as a bad guy at the end, where he grabs that baby and he uses that baby to shield himself. It's just like, I don't think you could be a bigger son of a bitch. But yeah.
At the end, where Christopher Walken, I don't want to give up spoilers. People haven't seen it.
Sure.
At the end, when Christopher Walken touches Martin Sheen and he sees his future as what's happening to him.
Yeah.
Great ending.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, really great performance by Christopher Walken. One of his best performances.
Yeah.
One of the best Stephen King adaptations. David Cronenberg at his best. So, yeah. Dead Zone, 1983, 89% score. And I have not seen this. This is Nanny, 2022, 91% score. Led by Anna Diop's strong central performance, the smartly disquieting Nanny is a promising debut for writer-director Nick. Can you say that? Nick Nikayatu Jusu. I know. I'm sorry, but I haven't seen Nanny. So, 2022, 91% score. So.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah. And that's a 132. So yeah, Nanny. Oh gosh, here's another one I could do a show just about this movie. Yeah, George Romero I don't know. I almost want to say this is my favorite George Romero movie. Dawn of the Dead is probably my favorite. This is probably number 2, and that's Martin. 1978. George A. Romero's contribution to vampire lore contains the expected gore and social satire, but also surprisingly thoughtful. It's also surprisingly thoughtful and boasts a whopper of a final act. John Amplas, I met him, real nice guy. I met him at Texas Frightmare. Martin. It's a kind of a psychological study, Martin, a character study about a young guy that is he or isn't he a vampire? He thinks he is. He doesn't have fangs. He has other methods for extracting blood from his victims, and he uses knocks the girls out with a needle, and razor blades, but great performance by John Amplas, and a great independent style film by George Romero. Anyway, what do you have to say about Martin?
We're on pretty similar wavelength. This may not be his best movie, but this is my favorite Romero film. John Amplas's performance is, I mean, I don't know. I can't think of another film with that kind of performance. And the independent feel of it you talked about. It was shot in Braddock, Pennsylvania, and I went there to try to find some of the shooting locations.
Oh.
I was looking mainly for the house, that they stay in, but I had a hard time finding that. But I put the soundtrack to the film on while I was driving around.
Oh, cool!
And it was like being in the movie, because there's almost like it's a post-industrial part of Pennsylvania. All the steel mills are out of there. So it's a very depressed area. And it's only worse when I was there. So all these years later, and it has a real singular mood and feeling to it, and a melancholy.
Yeah. Great way to describe it. And a psychological study.
Yes.
About a very, I don't know how you would describe him. He's disturbed. You get flashbacks of his childhood, of the things that he's gone through as a child, his life, and the way he looks at the world, of course. And like I say, he thinks he's a vampire. And it doesn't really, what I really love about it is it doesn't give a concrete answer to is he or isn't he, love the ending. What happens to him at the end, I think is great. It's got a classic vampire movie feel to it, the ending. And the character that does that, I think is great. And when I think about just his, to go from, Night of the Living Dead, and which number film is this of his? Is this his second film or third film?
I thought it was.
Is this before or after Dawn of the Dead?
This is before.
Yeah.
I think it's his fourth film, because he did what, Season of the Witch, and There's Always Vanilla. I think this is the fourth or fifth film, because it was after Crazies as well, I think.
Anyway, it's a 90% score, 1978 Martin. Yeah, it's a classic. Uh, it shouldn't be 131. It should be a whole lot higher.
Mhm.
uh, and I haven't seen this either. This is The Blackening. This is 130. The Blackening, 2022, 87% score. While it could stand to be a little funnier and quite a bit scarier, The Blackening is a thoughtful satire that skewers horror tropes and racial stereotypes. Tim Story directed. Don't have anything to say about it. I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
I just saw it a couple months ago. It's pretty funny. It's mainly a comedy with. It's almost a horror spoof than it is a horror film. Um, uh, but it was pretty funny. It's basically they're trapped in a house by a killer who's testing them on their how black they are. So it's like, oh, well, you voted for Trump, so you're definitely not black enough, or something like that, or you watch Judge Judy or something stupid like that. So it's a pretty goofy comedy, but I was entertained by it. I was not disappointed.
Well, the tagline is "We can't all die first."
Right, right, exactly.
I guess you get that. I don't get that, but anyway, The Blackening definitely is on the list. 2022, 87% score. Tim Story directed. Yeah. Okay, the next one, 129. I just have a ball with this film, and I remember the first time I watched this. I watched it with my mother, of all people, and she was like, the beginning of it. It's like a typical sort of, slasher horror film. She knew I loved that kind of stuff, and she would occasionally watch something like that with me. But she's kind of like, oh, Jay, come on, I don't want to watch this. But then it got this twist to it where Mother got so into it. I just like it better than I did, and I still love it. And that's Tucker and Dale versus Evil. 2010, 85% score. Like the best horror comedies, Tucker and Dale versus Evil mines its central crazy joke for some incredible scares, laughs, and believe it or not, heart. And Eli Craig directed. Oh gosh, I just have a ball and a half with Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It starts off like a typical sort of Texas Chainsaw Massacre sort of spoof, where you get these two rednecks that the way the film is unfolding, you think they're going to be, chainsaw wielding maniacs or something, But it turns out they're just two good old boys that are mistaken for hillbilly maniacs. And by being mistaken for maniacs, accidentally, people get slaughtered. One after the other in very fun, very gory ways. And it's just, I have a hoot and a half with Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I just love that film. But anyway, what do you got to say?
Yeah, the death scenes are hilarious. And what I like about it is there are quite a few horror comedies out there, but none of them are a comedy of errors.
Yeah.
And this is a comedy of errors that is also a horror comedy. And it's just, you can't help but like it. If you watch this and you don't have fun, there's something wrong with you. So.
Yeah, exactly. And the way people die in this film is really it's really over the top. It's really gory, but it's fun gory. It is.
Yes.
It's
slapstick.
It gets you laughing. It's so over the top and so gory, and the way people die. The reason why people die is hilarious. And Tucker and Dale, and Tucker and Dale, the characters are just great. They're so funny. They're just two good old boys.
They're such nice guys. Yeah,
nice guys. Yeah, and But yeah, it's a great horror comedy. It's really funny, really gory, and just a whole lot of fun. Uh, but yeah, 85% score, 2010. Eli Craig directed. Uh, and I'm trying to get these names right. Tyler Levine and Alan Tudyk. I
Yeah.
guess they're Tucker and Dale.
Yeah.
But yeah, whole just if you haven't seen it, you got to see Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Whole lot of fun. 129. I don't think I've seen this. Violation, 2020, 88% score. Violation presents a powerful depiction of one woman's trauma and its uncomfortably gripping aftermath. Dusty Mancinelli and Madeline Sims Fuhrer directed. And Madeline Sims Fuhrer actually stars in the film also. And Anna Maguire. But anyway, I haven't seen Violation. 2020, 88% score.
Yeah. Never heard of it.
Yeah. Okay. It's on the list. Violation. Here's another one. I have not seen it. Hatching. 2022, 93% score. A message movie in a hard horror shell, Hatching, purchased between beauty and revulsion, and establishes director Hannah Bergholm as a bright new talent. Hatching, 93% score, 2022. I haven't seen it.
Haven't seen it.
Yeah. Okay. Got a long list here. 126. Yep. Hatching. I haven't seen this, but I really want to see it. Phil Tippett, of course, all the stop motion stuff that Phil Tippett did, great films. What was it? The Empire Strikes Back. So many films he did these stop motion, where you move a little mechanical, it would be a creature or what was it? The Walkers and Empire Strikes Back. I think he did. You move these a little bit at a time and take a frame at a time. Stop motion. Phil Tippett. Mad God. And this is 2021, 92% score. A rich visual treat for film fans, Mad God proves that even at the age of CGI, the cinematic allure of stop motion animation remains strong. I haven't seen it, Phil Tippett, but I really want to see it. 2021, 92% score. So.
Yeah, I really want to see this one too. I love stop motion animation.
Yeah. And he was one
Yeah. I almost bought it today, actually. I was ordering some movies, but I think it's streaming on Shudder, though, and so I have no excuse for not having watched it.
Well, I've got Shudder. I didn't know that. So. But anyway, this is 2021, 92% score, Mad God. And, oh, God, 125 should be like number 8 or 9. And the first time I saw this was on VHS. And there's movies like Down by Law by Jim Jarmusch that made me want to make movies. That once I saw it, it made me crave to do that. And this is Evil Dead. 1981, 86% score. Of course, Sam Raimi. And, of course, Bruce Campbell. And Ellen Samwise. Betsy Baker. So scrappy that it feels as illicit as a book found in the woods. The Evil Dead is a stomach-churning achievement in bad taste that marks a startling debut for wonderkind Sam Raimi. And, yeah, one of the best. Evil Dead, talk about an independent film and talk about low budget, but what Sam Raimi was able to do visually and the performance he got out of Bruce Campbell and the creature design, the Deadites, and just a great camera work and direction by Sam Raimi. Evil Dead's one of the greatest. What do you got to say?
Yeah, this might be my favorite horror movie of all time. It was the first movie I ever bought on DVD. It's the reason I got a DVD player, actually, back in the day. And you're right. It made me want to make films. The difference is you actually did it. But it's a film where you can see all the scenes, but that just makes it even more like compelling and fascinating. You know, you can see the creativity, you know, in every scene, and it's handmade. It's it's like a bespoke horror film, you know.
Great way to describe it. And like I say, the creativity by Sam Raimi. What
I'm
he was
not
able
quite
to.
sure how to help you with that.
I didn't ask you anything, Alexa. What do you mean you don't need to help me? You don't know how to help me. I didn't ask you anything. But anyway, yeah. We could do a show just about the Evil Dead.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great film. And like I say, I keep going to Sam Raimi because this is his film. It's Bruce Campbell's film too, but it's Sam Raimi's vision. And what he was able to do, he made this real, no budget short film that he shopped around to get some investors for the film, for the film Evil Dead. Into the Woods, I think it's called, isn't it?
Within the Woods.
Within the Woods, yeah, Within the Woods. Which I've seen that. I'm sure you dig around, you can find a copy of Within the Woods to watch. But showing his visual style, his direction, and what he was able to capture to get investors in the Evil Dead. It took, I don't know, it took like 5 years to film.
Yeah.
It was just by hook and crook and just pulling yourself by the bootstraps to get this movie made. But that's what I love about it. It's like you say, when you watch it, you see the vision behind it and what it took to make this film and the creativity behind it. And yeah, it made me want to make movies. One of the movies that made me want to make movies, Evil Dead. So, but anyway, yeah, 86% score, 1981, Evil Dead, 125. Not only haven't seen this, I'm not even sure how to pronounce it. Santa Sangre, Sangre, Santa Sangre, 1980.
I believe that's how it's pronounced. Yeah.
Those unfamiliar with Alejandro Jodorowsky's style may find it overwhelming, but Santa Sangre is a provocative psychological journey featuring the director's signature touches of violence, vulgarity, and an oddly personal moral center. Alejandro Jodorowsky, which I'm sure I'm mastering the name, of course, but 1989, 87% score. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. I know Jodorowsky has a huge following in like cult and art house areas, but I've never seen any of his films. He also made, I think El Topo is considered.
Oh yeah,
El Topo and the Holy Mountain. That stuff is also him.
Yeah.
He almost made that famous version of Dune, which they made a documentary about.
Yeah, I saw that documentary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned that the name's coming to mind now. Yeah.
But I haven't seen any of his stuff though.
Yeah. But anyway, 124 Santa Sangre. Okay, I've got on my end about 5 minutes till 9. We'll end on this one tonight, okay. And it's a great one to end on. I saw this at Bahia Theater, and when it came out, which I later became a projectionist at Bahia Theater for like 3 years. But this was before I became a projectionist. But anyway, Poltergeist, 1982. Smartly filmed, tightly scripted, and most importantly, consistently frightening. Poltergeist is a modern horror classic. And this is the debate that I had with my friend Mark when we saw this together. And I remember him turning to me at the end of the movie and saying, Toby Hooper didn't direct this. and I didn't even, at the time, I hadn't seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so I didn't even know who Toby Hooper was.
Right.
You know, but I knew Spielberg produced it because his name is prominent, you know. And when you see the beginning of Poltergeist with the guy on the bicycle with the beer spewing, you know, and all that, and the great Jerry Goldsmith, great Jerry Goldsmith score, and it's right out of Spielberg. I mean, that looks like Spielberg is behind the camera. Through a whole lot of Poltergeist, I see Spielberg behind the camera. Now, I never did really get the real story behind that. You know, how much he directed, or if he directed any of it. Because Toby Hooper is credited as director, but it feels like a Spielberg film. You know, and you get this little girl who kind of gets zapped into this netherworld of, you know, another, you know, sort of a dead world, and attempts to bring this little girl back from this sort of nether world, you know. Great scenes, great moments in Poltergeist. Really, you know, whoever directed it did a really good job. It's really tense. It's got some classic moments in it. Of course, a little girl, you know, back in the day, because I'm old, because I remember at the end of the day, I remember the you know, da, 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 you know, and the screen going to static. And there was no more tape at the end of TV for the night. And you turned the TV off because that was it. It went to static, or it went to the bars and that beep, you know, and I remember that very, very clearly. But anyway, there's so many classic moments in Poltergeist, classic film. And anyway, what do you have to say about Poltergeist?
You know, it was one of those classics that I didn't see until I was much older, actually. So I don't have a lot of nostalgia for it. I mean, it's a good movie. There's a lot of great visuals in it. I do find the debate about, you know, who directed it and how much interesting. I think what people forget is that Toby Hooper never had a consistent visual style. You know, every movie he made looked very different and was shot very different.
Yeah, and it's a good point. When you look at Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then look at like say Salem's Lot, you know, very different style.
So, you know, I'm not surprised. You know, I think Spielberg said that, you know, it was totally Hooper or whatever. I mean, who knows? But it doesn't surprise me that him directing a Spielberg-produced film, that it's going to look like a Spielberg film to a certain degree. Just because his style changed, so, you know, with every project. Yeah. I mean, it's you know, a quotable classic. Did they remake this? I can't remember.
Yeah, I saw it one time, and I saw it and forgot it. You know,
it seems like something that you could successfully remake because the concept is very broad. You know.
Well, you know, and this was a period where they remade all those classic 80 films. They remade RoboCop.
Yeah.
They remade Total Recall. And this was just like right at that time where it was just like bam, bam, bam. Poltergeist, RoboCop, and Total Recall. And I saw all three and forgot all three as soon as I saw them.
Thank God you forgot them.
Yeah, Solomon forgot him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pointless remakes because they did absolutely nothing new with them.
No.
They just pretty much almost beat for beat remade the film with some little minor revisions. Pointless, absolutely pointless.
They were just trying to make a quick buck.
Yeah, yeah. And but this one hit me at just the right. Like I say, this was, gosh, 1983. I would have been 17, 18 years old. It hit me at just the right time. And this was another film, I think, that sort of pushed the PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
Because, particularly you get this moment where this guy's, in a bathroom and looking in the mirror, and he basically starts peeling his face off, and it's like, good God, it's really gory, and if you peel his face. And that's the thing about, speaking of Spielberg, is back in the early days, Spielberg wouldn't fuck around, man. He'd show some wicked shit, like the face melting in Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom, Raiders Lost Ark, that melting face,
Yeah.
and it's like, holy shit, and whether Toby Hooper directing or whoever directed, but peeling his face off and all that, and really gruesome stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the visuals are really good, it's very well directed, and yeah, to me, it's a classic film. But yeah, Poltergeist. So, and hang on, in 1982, 88% score. And I forgot who says in it. Craig T. Nelson, Joe Beth Williams, Beatrice Straight, Dominic Dunn, and who's the little lady? What's her name? The little
Zelda Rubinstein.
Zelda Rubinstein. Yeah.
She creeped me out as a kid. I remember seeing ads for the sequels and just being like,
yeah,
I don't know if I can watch that.
yeah. But anyway, yeah, that's a great way to end with Poltergeist. So we're at 123. 122 is, I love 122. I'm not gonna say what 122 is, but I love that film. A more recent film. I'll say this: Nick Cage.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. Nick Cage, and which is because Nick Cage appears in this list a lot. So, but yeah. Well, okay, good deal. Hopefully, like I say, I'm not going to have any bad visual problems with this one. This was another good one. I think we might be able to finish up with the next one. Because where are we at now? We're at 122. So, yeah, I don't know. We can come close. I can tell you the next two are great. The next one is really good. And the one after that is, once again, should be in the top 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what we can do with the next one. We can come close to finishing up, but 122 because 200, because like there were several in this one that I hadn't seen, but it's something you'd seen. But okay, I guess we'll finish this up. Thank you again for joining me, and like I say, I want you for part 3 too. So we'll wait about another 5 or 6 days, and
sure,
get our timetable synced up and all this, and do this again. But thank you. Was it Daystar Saw? I know I'm pronouncing. I can't say anything. But Daystar Saw, thank you for commenting. Thank you anyone that's watching, of course, and please give us a thumbs up. We got some pretty good views with the last show. It's got over 100 views. That for me, I know that's a pretty paltry for most people, but for me, get over 100 views. I appreciate it. But yeah, please give us a thumbs up. Spread the word. If you like what you're seeing, please spread the word. But Noah, sure appreciate this. You joining me and your insight in these films. I sure appreciate it. And we'll do this again soon. And hang on just a Mouse is messing up here. Okay, well, we'll finish up. You guys have a great Friday. Have a good Friday. Have a good weekend. And hopefully I'll get to see Terrifier 3 on Sunday. And I'll have something to talk about after that. So, okay, Noah, everybody, y'all have a good one. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye, everybody.